It's Father's Day, and I'm going to make something special for my husband. So I want something that I know he really likes, and he loves peanut butter fudge. And so I want to make a version that's a little bit healthier for him and will kind of save his arteries a little. But in the meantime, I want it to be really good. I went on the internet and I could not find what I wanted. I wanted a fudge made with honey or some other natural sugar. So I could have used a date paste or a raisin paste, but I chose the honey partly because I know that honey crystallizes. So I looked it up to see at what temperature it crystallizes, and that's 50 degrees. So my refrigerator is going to crystallize the honey in this fudge. So it's going to be just a little bit more firm from the honey. I'm going to use peanut butter instead of oil, but peanut butter also gets a little bit more solid in the refrigerator. I will be using this Kirkland brand organic creamy peanut butter. It just has on the ingredients, remember I said it's next to the nutrition facts. Here it is in little tiny letters: dry roasted organic peanuts and sea salt. So it's got clearly 2 ingredients, no sugar, no added oils. Very nice. I'll be using that. I'll be using this raw organic honey. Oops, wrong way. I think you store it upside down so it comes out. But this is raw, so it's a little bit cloudier. Sometimes it's not cloudy, but I kind of wanted the cloudiness because I know it will solidify just a little bit more in the refrigerator when I go to cool these. So raw organic honey. This is a Costco brand, great value. I also am going to use a dark premium baking chocolate, 100% cocoa. This is Ghirardelli's. And I like this one because it has been checked for heavy metals and it is very, very low in cadmium. You can find a lot of heavy metals in chocolate, so you just have to be a little bit more cautious. Navita's is another good brand, but Ghirardelli's 100% baking chocolate is really a nice brand for not having toxic concentrations of cadmium in it. Cadmium actually comes in the soil. So that's why some of these brands, they're not adding that heavy metal to it. They just are growing their cocoa in places where it comes naturally in the soil. And so some of the testing has shown that there are areas where we get chocolate and cocoa rather that is not as high in cadmium. Cadmium is a known carcinogenic, and so that's something to be really careful with. You can also get organic cocoa, but you don't know what the heavy metal content is in organic cocos. And so I just forgo the organic in this case, and I buy for the lowest amount of heavy metal in the cocoa. And I am going to add some walnuts. My husband does like nuts, so I'll be chopping these a little bit. When we get done here, we're going to be putting everything in our little baking cups. These are silicone baking cups that go in my cupcake holder. And I'm just going to put a little amount in the bottom, so it'll be like a little wafer of chocolate. I kind of like this idea that he can just take 1 or 2 out and just eat 1 or 2 small servings of this at a time, because my husband, for the most part, he would probably eat the whole thing without breathing. So anyway, we're going to just chop these. It's not my favorite knife, but we'll use it. We're just going to chop these and have them ready. Because these are kind of small and thin pieces, I'm going to chop just a little bit more fine than I sometimes do when I'm using walnuts. I really like walnuts in fudge when I used to have it anyway. And this is actually something I could have because it has no gluten, dairy, eggs, meats. It's a very vegan kind of chocolate, and for the most part quite healthy. And I really do think that when I try this recipe again, it's not really a recipe, but it's just my experiment. When I try this again, I may actually use some date paste, which is just soaked dates. You soak them for about an hour and then you blend them into a nice paste. So that is also another way to sweeten things when you're baking. So I did see some recipes that use dates on the internet, and I did see some that used some raisins and just blended them really well. And I think that would be delicious also. I don't see any reason not to. It's just that I could not find a recipe that was a chocolate peanut butter fudge with honey. And it may be because it doesn't set up. So we'll soon find out anyway. And that's okay. It's okay to experiment. I was a little surprised that I was having trouble finding that on the internet because there's just so many things out there. So what I will be doing is putting everything into this bowl, and all the sticky stuff I'm going to measure by weight, because then I don't have to measure it out into a measuring cup and then put it in the bowl and then put it in the little cupcake holders. So we're just going to use weight to measure those out, and you'll see in just a second. Most recipes talk about making it with butter or even coconut butter, or you can even use cocoa butter. But in this case, for that part of the recipe, that's going to be the peanut butter. This will provide the oil in this fudge. You can use almond butter, you could use cashew, walnut butter, whatever you can find. You could use sesame or sunflower seed butter also, I bet. But it's going to have quite a different flavor. And I know that my husband really likes peanut butter. So let's do that first. We're going to measure out a 1/4 cup. And on the back here, it'll say 2 tablespoons is 32 grams. And so I'm going to want 4 tablespoons. Turn on my scale. And I'm just going to start to measure out approximately 4 tablespoons. And really what it's going to be is we need 64. So let's just do that. I know a lot of people on the internet, they like the crunchy butter for their chocolate peanut butter fudge, and I agree with that. I would like that too. People are usually either crunchy or smooth. You know, everybody's a little different. And, 68. Let's take some out. 66. And let's take about 2 grams out. There we have it, 64. So for the honey, we're going to measure out another 1/4 cup, which is 4 tablespoons. And for this, that's going to weigh 84 grams of honey. I'm going to take the big lid off because it will be easier. Oops, I forgot to add up. So 84, 140, 148 I'm going to need because I already had 64 on there. 148. Ooh, I think I went past. Got to take 10 out. It's going to be tricky. I'll take 2 more out. It's only like that. Put half of that back. That's close enough. Now we're going to put the 1/4 cup of the Ghirardelli's cocoa that I already measured out. So we'll put that in there. And we'll take that scale out of here. We no longer need it. We'll put the nuts in there. And then we'll stir. And then we'll put it in the little cups. Oh no, my husband, I can hear him coming. This is a surprise. It's supposed to be a surprise. Okay, I'm going to stir really quick before he comes in. That's going to be very sticky, so I'm going to stir with a spoon. But I'm going to need a spatula, I think, at some point here. So this is just going to be very sticky. And if it's too dry, add some moisture to it. So sometimes I notice they'll add something like some kind of non-dairy milk. But in this case, I don't know if I'm going to add that. I'm probably just going to add a little bit of water if I need it. But this is starting to look like a very good texture. My husband's going to come in the house any second here. Don't you know it? How do I hide this? Anyway, it's not going to be a surprise, so No surprise this time, I guess. But it is actually coming out to a really nice texture that if it firms up in those containers, could just be perfect. So I'm gonna, once I make sure this is completely stirred, the only other ingredient you could add in this, a couple things. You could add a little salt if you need it, but there's salt in the peanut butter. And most of the recipes, they said, if you had butter that had salt, don't add salt. You know, it just depends on everybody's taste. And since this is an experiment and you would be experimenting with this on your own, you can do it whatever way you want. So if you want a little bit extra salt, that's the way you do it. You add that in. If you don't need salt or you're kind of limiting it in your diet, then don't add it in. There's some in the peanut butter anyway. And then the last thing that people added that I don't have is vanilla. Now, my husband loves vanilla, and normally I would add it to this, but I think he loves vanilla enough that he used it all, so we don't have it right now. And, there he is.
I did use it all.
You did use it all?
Yeah,
Okay.
I put it in my milk.
I thought so.
Oh.
Okay, so we're going to just put it in these cups and put it in the fridge and see how that goes. Now, I think about a tablespoon for each amount, and we're just going to have to estimate, unless I did it with the scale, I guess I could do it that way too, to estimate how much that would be for each one, but I don't think I'm going to be that choosy. I'm just going to do approximately a tablespoon. And then we can have him taste it in a little bit, and I'll do that for the end of the video here so you can tell how it turned out. Notice this is a small amount, and I'm sure he'll feel like that because it doesn't matter what amount I would make, he would definitely eat the whole thing. He's got a big appetite. He's the type who can eat a quart of ice cream without blinking. So I will go ahead and put this in the little containers. Oh, I bet you want to see that part. Here, I'll show you. So it's going to be about approximately a tablespoon. And let's do another one. I don't know how I'm going to press that down. It actually thickened way, way thick. I went about 12 of them. But if you think about it, I had a quarter cup of peanut butter and a quarter cup of honey. That's a half a cup. So that's 8 tablespoons right there. Then I had the nuts and the cocoa. So it may be making about 12 altogether tablespoons. There's 16 tablespoons in a cup, and 3/4 of a cup has 12. So 12 tablespoons. Right now I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, only 6. I'm at only 6. Let's put that over here and here. Yeah, I'm surprised at how thick it got. He made some chocolate syrup the other day for his ice cream, and he couldn't get it to thicken very easily. But this is definitely quite thick. Nice, because that tells me once it cools down, it's going to be a nice texture to it. Let me see where I am. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, not bad. I don't think I have enough for 12, but I have enough for at least one more here. And I'm going to have to get a spatula to get that out. And it smells like chocolate. And I can honestly say I haven't done my usual. I usually taste as I go along. Then I could say that's why we don't have 12. but we just don't have 12 because I put too much in some, and that's okay. I'm telling you, he won't notice that. He will not notice. He just likes to try it. This one needs more. Definitely. And honestly, I don't know how I'm going to get those to go down into that dish a little unless I put them in the microwave or something. I think you can put silicone in the microwave, but I just don't know. There we go. We'll put them in the containers. This one has a lot, I guess. Yeah, I kind of wish I could just warm this whole thing and have that melt right down into these. I think that would be the best. And one way to do it might be just to set this whole thing in a warm place for a few minutes. Could be a warm oven even. You don't want it too hot, but I just want it to kind of melt down. In fact, I'm going to try that. I'm going to put it in my oven for a few minutes, see what happens. If I get enough to put in that other one, I will. And then I'll show you that. So I just took these out of the oven. They look exactly the same as when I put them in. No difference, no melting occurred. That was at 170 degrees. So I think it's gonna mean that I have to actually get something to flatten them out a little. I'm gonna use a small rubber spatula, but I don't know. I'm gonna see if it's a little bit wet, see if that makes a difference. And it seems to. So I'll do that and see if I can flatten them out just a little bit. Let me get something to dip my spatula in. So I'll kind of dip it every minute or so and see if that helps. And I'll be back to show you the rest when they come out. All right, they just came out of the freezer. They've been in there maybe an hour or more, about an hour. Anyway, they are definitely hard. Comes out in a nice little kind of a wafer. And I'm just gonna get my husband to taste one. We'll see what happens. Okay, just remember I'm not Mr. Reese's.
Okay.
Okay.
So maybe take a spoon, is that what?
No, they're pretty hard. You can just kind of flip it out of there.
Yes. Okay.
Comes right out really easily.
It does, you're right.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Very chewy.
Chewy? Okay.
Chewy. I like it. And a lot of peanut butter flavor.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Not as sweet as I thought.
No, it's just right.
Just right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nuts in it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Walnuts. Okay.
You know what I like? It doesn't stick to your fingers.
No.
It's nice.
Surprising it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Okay, good. All right. I forgot that I was going to serve it with dark cherries, but they're very dark and they don't really look that good on the plate with it. So I settled for strawberries, but the dark cherries taste wonderful with it, and you can do it whatever way tastes the best.